Hello everyone, welcome to our webinar which is broadcast every Thursday at 11 am. I am Serhat and today's webinar topic is how should detectors be located in a fire detection and alarm systems project. We will give information about sensor types and project design principles. Before going into information about sensor types, the effects of fire and issues to be considered in the sensor selection. These are the fire effects: smoke effect, heat effect, and flame effect. As a result of combustion, there occur consequences like smoke, heat, and flame. Detectors are produced with features that detect one or more of these effects together. In the occurrences of fires, the order of the information of the effects of fire may vary depending on the characteristic of the flammable materials in the area. For example, since in the fire of wood or cotton, first of all smoke occurs, the temperature increases, and lastly, flame is formed. While the fire of flammable liquid first increases the heat and the formation of smoke after the flame is formed. Therefore, it's necessary to determine the types of the substances that can be burned in possible fire in environment and their effects in case of fire. Besides, while choosing the detector type, some criteria like ceiling height, the effects of ventilation systems, the emission conditions of the neighborhoods, and the possibility of false alarm should take into consideration. In the project manuals, there are factors affecting the selection of the detector types. These factors are legislation requirements, materials in the area and how they burn, configuration of the area, effects of ventilation and heating, ambient condition inside the examined rooms, possible false alarm, and hazardous atmosphere. Let's come to detection zones. In the fire alarm project, the building should be divided in the detection zones. Thereby, the fire alarm call points can be found easily via zone principles. A single area should not exceed 200 square meters or contain more than 32 detectors, or a search distance of more than 60 meters from the point of entry into the zone. And each zone should be limited to a single floor of the building except for the following situations. If the zone consists of a staircase, elevator shaft, or other similar structure that extends beyond the floor but inside a fire compartment, total livable floor area of the building is less than 300 meters square. As you can see, there are elevator shafts and staircase in this project, and the total livable floor area of the building is less than 300 meters square. That's why each zone should be limited to a single floor of the building. Let's talk about heat detectors. Generally, heat detectors are accepted to be less sensitive to existing detector forms. Heat detectors with rise rate algorithm are more suitable where ambient temperatures are low or only change slowly. Fixed temperature detectors are more suitable where ambient temperature can be fluctuate quickly in a short time. Heat detectors can resist adverse environmental conditions more than other fire detectors. These point type detectors are mentioned in EN 54.5 standards. The maximum detection radius for a heat detector is 4.5 meters. For an array of square detectors in the open area, the detectors can be at a distance up to 6.4 meters from each other and at a distance of of up to 3.2 meters from wall or large obstacle. When it comes to smoke detectors, the ionization chamber and optical smoke detectors both have sufficient response for general use. However, it carries certain risks, whether each type is suitable or not. Although both types are approved according to EN 54.7 standards. It is necessary to pay attention to which type is most suitable in the design depending on the characteristic of the particular detector. These features are depend on the design used in algorithms used. The maximum radius for a smoke detector is 6.2 meters. The detectors in the open area can be up to 8.8 meters apart from each other and up to 4.4 meters away from wall or a large obstacle. How about using detectors in the hallways? Using heat detectors in the hallways should be not exceeding 2 meters width. Only the points too close to the corridor center line should be observed. And if the heat detectors are placed at 9-meter intervals, the distance to the wall should be maximum 4.5 meters. If the protected area has a sloping ceiling, for detectors at the top or near, the horizontal distances given above can be increased by 100% for each slope degree up to maximum of 25%. How about using smoke detectors in hallways and corridors? It's again should be not exceeding 2 meters width. Only the points close to the corridor center line should be taken into account, and if the smoke detectors are placed at 12.4 meters intervals, the distance to the wall should be maximum 6.2 meters. Like the heat detectors, if the protected area has a sloping ceiling, for detectors at the top or near, the horizontal distances given above can be increased by 1% for each slope degree, and it's up to 25%. How about the beam detectors? Beam detectors consist of receiver and transmitter. This transmitter sends signal consistently to the receiver. When the fire smoke decreases to the rate of reception of these rays by the receiver within the limits defined by the standard, the fire alarm systems gives an alarm. When any object cut off the beam, like forklift, stairs, etc., the device gives a fault warning. The smoke density of fire decreases the signal rate. That's why the systems gives alarm. Using beam detectors is appropriate in high ceiling areas like warehouses, hangars, atriums, sport facilities that have a high ceiling buildings. For the beam detection, it is important to coordinate all fire protection measures and control their interactions accordingly. The requirements of this guide should only taken as a starting point, and additional detection may be required in these places. The beam detectors in the projects in the area should be installed at a between 9 meters to 12 meters. When the detectors are not within the 10% of the zone, the maximum horizontal distance between two detectors is 25% of the installation height. Additional angle beam detectors can be considered suitable if the detectors are ceiling mounted and there are concerns about the effect of stratification. You can place the receiver and the transmitter to see each other, and it is up to 100 meters apart. Thus, you can protect an area of approximately 1,005 meters squares. The distance of the IR rays of the beam type smoke detectors with the wall or any obstacle is minimum. It should be 500 millimeters. As a conclusion, as a result, before choosing the detectors that we will use for early detection of fire, flammable substances that pose a fire risk for each location should be determined and appropriate detectors should be selected according to fire effects like smoke, heat, or flame. Thank you for your participation to our webinar. If you have any questions about this week's webinars or before week's webinars, you can feel free to ask me from chat box.